Good morning, my friends. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. I was just reminded of something, and yesterday in the message Benjamin was preaching about knowing God, where He is, His presence, and sometimes we might feel, sometimes we might not, because we can't depend on our feelings. But God is always with us when we are His children, and He's guiding and leading us. And He was talking about a story that how he ended up on a plane beside this person that he needed to share about the work of the Lord. It was just incredible. And today, as I was thinking of a verse I read on Friday, and something so wonderful happened that I just was like, wow, I was reminded again because I had just read Psalms 37, verse 23, a verse that I have taken since I was 60 years old, because when you put them together, 37 and 23, it makes 60. And this is what it says. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. And then 24, though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. And sometimes we feel like we are falling. Sometimes we feel like we've lost our sleep. And some nights I am up and down because there's things that will just come to bother me, like things I should have done, things I should have said. And why didn't I do that? And why didn't I do that? And I bring it to the Lord, but the Lord holds us up. Because when we run to Him instead of away from Him, He's holding us up in the midst of the night when we can't sleep. And I am just going to say thank you, Lord, for those times that you remind us, yes, that we are held up by you. And when I read this verse on Friday, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. And I was talking to Terry, and we had a dinner date together. So I decided to just go and be by myself in a place that I love to park my car and walk. And it's such a nice place for me because it reminds me of being in somewhere else in another country, because it's just the shops are outside. And even though it's hot, I don't mind, because some of the countries where I've been, like Lebanon and Armenia, well, sometimes it is hot. Armenia, not so much, but Lebanon, it is very hot. But I don't mind because you're walking with people, you're looking, you're talking. And so I was driving over there, and I happened to drive by a friend's house, and she doesn't live there anymore. After so many years, she became a widow. She sold the house, moved near her daughter, and so she lives about an hour and a half, 2 hours with traffic away from here. So I picked up my phone and I said, I am passing your street right now. And I said, and I miss you. And she said, where are you? And I said, on O'Neill Lane, passing your street to your house. And she said, oh my goodness. She said, I'm about to turn on O'Neill Lane. How far are you from the interstate? So we got on the interstate almost at the same time. It was just so incredible how the Lord led our steps, because we are just His children, and He is ordering our steps. Somewhere it says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eyes. So it was wonderful to meet with my friend Carolyn and have lunch with her on Friday. And as I was thinking that, I said, Lord, there's been so many times you brought me to places where I know that this is God. I know you've directed me there for a purpose. And that happened to me a few years ago, and I've shared that before, but I want to remember that again. And we were in Jerusalem. We were just a few days before the group would arrive, Terry and I and a few others that had gone with us a few days before. And we were on Mount of Olives, which Carolyn and I talked about it the other day, with the olive trees. And we were sitting under olive trees taking pictures and saying, Jesus must have spent so many nights up here on the Mount of Olives. And I just love being there. And as I was remembering that, we were on a Saturday, we were free. We could do whatever after breakfast. And I told Terry, I'm going to go to the Armenian quarters because it means a lot to me. And my grandparents were in Jerusalem. And there are so many memories of me going to the Armenian quarters with my dad. So I took a taxi. I went over there. And when the taxi driver was telling me, oh, you must eat at this restaurant right here by the gates of the Armenian quarters. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I went in, Nobody was around. It was a Saturday, and I started just crying on the inside the area where you just walk around the patio or the courtyard. And I saw an entrance, and usually I don't go into places when I'm by myself where I don't know where it will lead, but I felt so safe. And I started going up these very, very, very old steps. And I was very careful. It was twisting around, and I went to the first floor. When I got up there, not even reached up there, I heard Armenian being spoken, and there was a priest standing there and a lady about my age. And they looked at me like, you are in our private area. And I looked at him and I said, the first thing I said was, I am Samuel Doctorian's daughter, because I always get my dad's name because there was always people somewhere would know his name. And I said, I'm just looking around. And she said, you are Samuel Doctorian's daughter? And I thought she was just being funny, like, oh yeah, well, and she said, no, I know your dad used to put tents up and have meetings. So I knew she knew my dad. And she turned around and was telling the priest, who was younger, about my dad. And at that time, I was more encouraged. I walked up. Another lady came in, all dressed in black, and she just stood there like she was so broken, so broken. I could see it on her face, on the way she was standing there, and she said, Zabel, do you know who this is? And she looked at me and she said, no. And she said, this is Samuel Doctorian's daughter. And this lady that looked so sad and broken looked at me, and there was a smile on her face, and she said, I knew your mom and I knew your dad, and your mom was in a meeting one time and they gave her flowers and she took it to her mother-in-law. And so she was so excited, and then she was going somewhere. So I said, okay, I'll walk with you. And I was like, oh, Zabel, be careful, because I thought she was so much older than me, and happened to be she wasn't. But I said, be careful of these steps. And she said, oh, honey, she said, I do these every day. I take these steps. And she was going real fast, and I was trying to follow her. And when we got to outside to the courtyard, another priest saw her, and he said, Zabel, how are you doing? And she leaned against these old brick walls, and she just said, not good. And she was about to cry. So I walked away because I didn't want to hear exactly what she was going to share. And when she came around to where I was, I waited for her right outside the doors of the gate of the Armenian quarters. I said, Zabel, what is it that you're carrying so heavy? And she said, this year in April, my brother went to be with the Lord. He was 60 years old, and I just cannot receive that from the Lord. I am just upset, and I'm about to die. And the minute she said that same April, a few months before, my brother also had gone to be with the Lord, and he was 60 years old. And I started sharing with her what the Lord had done and how the Lord had brought us through. And as I was sharing with her, I was thinking, wow, Lord, you brought me here not to see the Armenian quarters. Yes, it was so wonderful to be there, but at the same time, to minister to Zabel, something that I had walked through. And I could tell her, it is the Lord. He upholds us. Only the Lord, Zabel, only the Lord. And she started receiving. And then the last day of our trip, we happened to be in her son's restaurant next door. And while we were eating there, Zabel came to see us because there was a few of us that were Armenian on the trip. And when she came, she brought us things that we love, mangoes, and I think some other fruits that we love to eat. And while she was sitting with us, we shared with her, we prayed with her. And as I left Jerusalem, I thought, wow, Lord, you order our steps. Our times are in your hands. So today, as you're walking, as you're going, as you're doing, just ask him, what is it, Lord? Where are you bringing me? Who do I need to encourage today? Who do I need to point to your word today? Because this is where we find our encouragement. As I was reading this morning from chapter 40, and there were so many verses here, but I'm just going to bring up a few. Many, O Lord my God, are your wonderful works, verse 5, which you have done, and your thoughts which are to usward. They cannot be reckoned with in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. Verse 8, I delight to do your will, O my God. Your law is within my heart. Verse 10, I have not hid your righteousness within my heart. And then be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me, O Lord. Make haste to help me, because when I read verse 12, Terry happened to be right there. And I said, Terry, look what David is saying. For innumerable evils have compassed me about. My iniquities have taken hold upon me, so I'm not able to look up. Sometimes we feel like we are so cast down, we cannot even look up. And it says, they are more than the hairs of my head. More than the hairs of my head. And it was just interesting that David would feel that way. And I said, wow, no one knows the number of our hairs. But the Lord said, our Heavenly Father knows every hair on your head. And He is the one that's holding us up. He gave us Jesus to die on the cross for us. Every time I share that with somebody and I say, for God so loved you, and I put their name there and they've never heard it as personally, then they are just listening. Because God so loved us that He gave Jesus for us to die on the cross. How much the Father loves us. And today He's guiding, leading, and holding our days in His hands. And He's delighting if we're walking when our trust and hope is in Him. Let's lift up our eyes, look unto the Lord today, and see where He's going to guide us today. Be blessed today.